Please join us in welcoming CEO for Virtuoso, Matthew Upchurch.
Good afternoon, everybody. It's wonderful to be back here. I was at the second Skift, and I always was grateful to Rafat for bringing in the part of the industry that everybody back then thought were going to be the extinct dinosaurs. So if you know me and know what I do for a living, I represent a very large global network of travel advisors now in 58 countries, doing $35 billion worth of travel. And I wanted to talk today, this is what I did back in 2015 and 2018. So I'm not going to sit here and talk to you about why I think travel advisors have done so incredibly well. I'm going to just let the numbers speak for themselves. So as of this August, leisure travel around the world had actually recovered to about 126% of 2019. And our network is at 211%, which is absolutely amazing when you think of the growth of this industry and how that's happened. So today what I want to do, though, is talk just briefly about the bigger context of why this has happened. First of all, I've been a big believer for over 20 years that every industry in the world is polarizing between optimized commodity and optimized experiential. And if you want to personify it, you can just think of two of the wealthiest people in the world, Jeff Bezos and Bernard Arnault, as representatives of this polarization. Danger is in the middle. You better be really good at one or the other. And the number one protector, in my opinion, of a margin is how did you make me feel? So if you think about the term luxury, at the end of the day, it's how did you make me feel? That doesn't matter whether it's a tie or a scarf or the way you interact with a human being or hospitality. This is the number one protector. Now, back in 2010 and 2011, we had two keynote speakers at our global conference that have become our northern lights. And that was Simon Sinek, who wrote Start With Why, who nobody knew him back then. He's now been back 4 times. We just had him a few months ago. And he talked about in Start With Why that people commoditize the what and they buy the why you do something. And Dr. Brené Brown, who at the time also nobody knew, who's also blown up as an incredible person and leading thinker, she says, as technology becomes more ubiquitous, people will not only desire, but literally crave authentic human connection. So, that also, these two North Stars validated our technology ethos. Automate the predictable so that you can humanize the exceptional. And it's really exciting because the mother of all automate the predictable is now happening with AI. And what that is doing is allowing us as professionals to focus on what does it mean to humanize the exceptional? How do we go deeper into that value proposition? So, this is one of my favorite recruiting slides. I showed this at Cornell Hospitality. And sometimes the tech sector gets so enamored with itself, right, that they forget very simple things. Like, for example, and this is over a decade ago, this is a brand new Virtuoso agency started by Kristen in the black there in Atlanta. Massively, massively successful. And we forgot back in 2007 that mobility and social media fundamentally changed the profession of travel advisor. In fact, travel advisors became some of the earliest, most successful digital nomads. And what happened? It elevated the people who became travel advisors. It was no longer kind of a clerical job that was tied to a desk. It was an exciting, incredible career that has become incredibly successful. This is a picture of them working in St. Bart's. And then just this June, I loved Colin's article, AI versus Travel Advisors When Humans Wins. So there was research done late last year. And it's funny because I remember when I was told the baby boomers are going to put us out of business, no, the millennials were going to put us out of business, the Gen Zers were going to put us out of business. The data that was done last year that Colin built on, Gen Zers are using travel advisors at a greater percentage than any other generation, which is totally the opposite of what we were going to be told to do. So this was a fantastic thing. And in fact, by the way, I always thank the millennials, the first digital natives, because the millennials brought us back to literally the simplest definition of luxury. Of course I could do it myself. I don't want to. It's pretty simple. And why would I if I have a professional collaborator who makes it fun, easy, and has got my back and uses their perspective? So when I talk about experiential travel, there's one word I use now, and luxury travel. It's diversity. Luxury and experiential travel is incredibly diverse. And what's been very exciting for our profession is that the diversity of our advisors matches the diversity of our clients, meaning that they can speak to them in their language, in their mediums, in the way in which they like to hear things, right? And so this diversity of our profession has absolutely been amazing. I've never seen a new advisor grow from 0 book of business to a multi-million-dollar producer in a shorter amount of time than now in my entire career, which is almost 40 years. And then the one word that I cannot stand in the travel industry is the word distribution. It sounds like we're selling a pack of potatoes or something, right? I've never liked the word distribution. But when it's used, a certain airline, for example, had what I call a really bad case of industrial amnesia and paid the price for it. And I want to thank another leader in our industry for probably the simplest way to see this. And that was Ed Bastian. And he said, our strategy is very simple. We're going to serve our customers where they like to be served. And so with that, I'm really going to enjoy having a chat with Rafat. Thank you. Rafat?
How are you?
Good to see you.
Matthew and I have done this a few times over the years.
Yeah.
Every industry should have an evangelizer like Matthew. Would be lucky to have an evangelizer like Matthew. Let me ask you this question. Have you used AI to plan your trip, any of your trips?
It's amazing the use cases of how it's, there's Scott Galway he has a great article in No Mercy, No Malice about the best use of AI as a thinking partner. And so one of the ways that we've seen our advisors use AI tremendously already is in that ability to better think, to better look at an itinerary, put something in there, what am I missing? But then make sure that they're able to then build that out, because it's not just the experience, but who's gonna actually provide it, right? So it's, I think one of the really cool parts about what's happening for us is that we have so many different advisors and members that use so many different models. Mm-hmm. So we're not trying to develop a single UX. We're not trying to follow a particular path. We have people doing, we have ex-Goldman Sachs. We have an amazing member in London, former Goldman Sachs, super mobile technology, and they're all using all these different technologies and using AI as an incredible productivity and thinking partner. And we're also developing some of our own models because I said a long time ago, over 10 years ago, we live in an era where answers are a dime a dozen. And it's funny when you think about the word prompt engineer, all it really means is somebody that asks really good questions. Right? And a lot of great advisors, when they impress a sophisticated world traveler, a lot of times they don't impress them with their answers. They impress them with the question that they hadn't asked.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I guess one of the biggest skills of a great travel advisor is asking the right questions.
100%. 100%. And then the other thing that I think a lot of times it gets lost is, I've always told our advisors that if you tell somebody you're in the business of booking travel, you've literally lost before you even started. Mm-hmm. There are hundreds of thousands of ways of booking travel. It's the holistic nature of the way an advisor adds value before the trip, during the trip, and after the trip. And we've been doing this study for over 15 years now, where the number one thing that sophisticated travelers, who, by the way, are the most tech savvy, they have God status with everybody.
Right.
I mean, they have great connections, but the number one thing they have said is the biggest differentiator between a trusted travel advisor and a transactional travel agent is some form of debrief after the trip that becomes a learning relationship where they can then see the value of the way their trips get better over time.
You do Virtuoso Week and you do it different places, Vegas, etc. One of the things you've done over the years is add the tech element. Our common friend Gilad runs it for you, the Virtuoso technique. The question that I have is, what's the state? I mean, we talked about AI, but what's the state of travel agent tech today?
I'm glad. So Gilad Bernstein is on my board. He served with the Paul.
Because a lot of people pitch you for tech for your agent network, right?
Yeah, and what's so funny about it is when you invited me back in 2014, I loved it because it was so tech heavy, right? And everybody's like, and this app is gonna what? And what was so funny is the number of tech startups that kept talking about, well, we're gonna replace travel agents.
But they also pitch you for investment money.
But it was funny because to me, there's always been two types of technology. That that basically removes as many people as possible, and that which actually amplifies the value of human connection. So what I've been really happy about is that we started a tech travel summit a few years ago, Gilad, and we've become kind of a place for technology companies who actually see and understand the size and the scope of the travel advisory business in all its different iterations. And I'm super excited to see the amount of new tech that's being created. And I remember saying in 2014, I said, by the way, you don't have to do it. The number of tech startups that wanted to be B2C, and then they started running out of money, and they wanted to pivot at the 11th hour to B2B, and then died.
Yeah.
If they would have just architected appropriately, and I said, I don't really care if you have any one of our partners, I don't care if you do B2C. I care that you're a good B2B partner. And it's funny because the architecture that I think is that I think everybody should have, and when Ariane was up here, I think it's fantastic that what she's done, because you should build a agnostic layer that allows you to have the best B2C experience you possibly can have, but then that allows your partner, your team that deals with added value partners who bring you somebody based on some sort of other very difficult to replicate value proposition to be the best value partner you can for them. And then let that creative tension force both sides to be the best they can be.
You also, obviously, Virtuoso exists in the luxury world. You have a good sense of the state of luxury travel today with all the ups and downs of the larger economy. The stuff that we've been covering says that luxury is holding up. What's your sense? You are in the front, or at least your agents are on the front lines. What are the contours you're seeing?
Well, I've never seen our average ADR is $1,800 a night. So now that's our average, but obviously there's everything in between. But luxury travel is not only driven by the wealthiest of customers, it's also driven by aspirational sales, right? So people that move into that, and when they move into a higher priced sale, then a lot of times it's like an investment. So that's when they want to make sure that that investment is looked after by somebody. So we have both the customers that view us as like the experiences version of their financial advisor. And then we have the people that don't use us for every transaction, but use us for the ones that they deem are very strong. So right now, our sales are the strongest we've ever seen it. I think if anything happens, I think what's going to happen is those partners, those people that are not delivering the value proposition for the price point, I don't think you're going to see a bubble. I think you're going to see a bifurcated bubble. I think the organizations that are really focusing on particularly employee culture, right? How did you make me feel when I stay at this property or on this cruise line or whatever? I can literally feel that they're people, it's just the way I experience it. You know, Bill was up here. You know, we just had our 22nd year at the Bellagio. You know, he's absolutely true with the transformation. But I think those that are kind of that are a bit predatory on let me figure out this profitability but not really invest, they're going to get hit pretty hard.
One of the things, and I know you're a fan of Colin, who writes columns for us, and he's been very critical of the commoditization of the big box luxury versus the luxury that you and I were talking there about. Talk about the backpacker and converging into.
You know, that's a really good question, and I actually have a newer answer that's only I kind of knew it was there, but it's really become into focus. There's a lot of brands out there. Like, it's always, my career started because I was a tour operator, a DMC, and then a travel agency owner. And I realized how easy it is to point.
By the way, at some point when you are drinks with Matthew, ask him about his family history. That's a fascinating family history.
Thank you. But in my early career, it was driven by a sense of permanent empathy, because it was like, it's so easy to be on this side of the fence and point the finger at the other person. So when I was a tour operator, it's like, if those travel agents would just get their act together. And then I became a travel agent and goes, man, this isn't easy, right? This is hard. So the reason I say that is, there are a lot of fabulous brands out there that really do mean what they say. One of the newest pieces of information that we're starting to act on is, sometimes it's not the brand, sometimes it's the ownership. So you can have XYZ brand.
Right.
So and this is the level of sophistication that some of our advisors have. Some of our advisors are, you know what? Yes, some brands are better than others, but I'm starting to book the hotels based on who owns the property.
Right.
Now, I'm not going to pick on one that just comes to mind. The Fairmont Pacific Rim in Vancouver, right? It operates at an incredible level. The owner, literally, his building is across the street, and he has an incredible personal passion for wanting to maintain the standards, his team, everything. So I find that these kind of nuances that are out there, you don't find that just on the.
Sure, not on the booking site. You won't find who the owner of the owner. But you and I were talking about the convergence of the backpacker and the luxury traveler.
Yeah.
Talk about that.
No, that's so. When I grew up, my father was a founder of the United States Tour Operator Association. So back in the old days, a luxury traveler was here and a backpacker was here. Today, it's become like a U shape. The backpacker and the luxury traveler today are closer psychographically to each other than the mass market.
They're looking for the same thing.
They're looking for the same thing, because today's luxury traveler or experiential, because sometimes if you just say luxury, it just sounds so, snooty, quite frankly. Yeah. But it's not just that; it's really valuable experiences. Today's luxury traveler, they want to be a participant. They're curious. They want to give back. So that's why, and obviously it kind of makes sense, because a lot of the people that were backpackers 20, 30 years ago
ended up becoming
are today's successful entrepreneurs, and they were, all that kind of stuff. So it's been really wonderful to see. And also, by the way, there's a couple of reasons why travel is so incredibly strong. Number one, never in the history of the planet have we had 6 generations of people all traveling at the same time in the numbers we have. Mm-hmm. Number two, including the longevity revolution, the fact that that prioritizing expenditures on experiences versus products, things, has on that. So a lot of wonderful things out there.
I know we don't have tons of time, but people are asking questions. Wanderlust and all. I don't know what that question is.
Yeah, so Wanderlust is basically, I'll do that. We have a tool that's a.
Oh, this is your tool.
Yeah, this is our Virtuoso. And thank you, whoever put that in there.
Your PR person.
It's actually Wanderlust. It's basically a travel dreaming tool to basically help people be more proactive. We've always told our customers, the more we can interact ahead of time, right? The more we can get you. The pitch I've always said is, why would you have a financial advisor in your life to have a proactive, conscious plan to optimize your financial assets, but not have a professional collaborator in your life to have a proactive plan to optimize your most valuable, non-renewable asset, your free leisure time? Be more thoughtful about it instead of just reactive, and it's becoming really great.
We don't have tons of time. We'll take one more question, Brian. Pick one of the two. Do you feel quite luxury is growing a trend, or how do you see high net worth? I think that we talked a little bit about that, but millions of the vetting of experiences.
Yes.
Is probably a thing that you think about a lot.
We think a lot about it, and the advantage that we have is that back to the diversity of our advisors. They're Gen Zers. It's so funny. We talk about being younger in the United States. Now, we have members in 58 countries. But the wealthiest cohort of American consumers in the United States over the next 15 years will be single women over 65. Mm-hmm. No other group of consumers will have more money than that group. So the reason I say this is that luxury has become insanely diverse. And when we talk about experiences, it's our advisors and our providers that help us be creative.
The single woman over 65 is true. Like, you read all the data, the power of older single women going ahead around the world is going to be the most powerful thing
unbelievable.
in the planet. Thank you, Matthew. That was fascinating.
Thank you, Rafat. Thank you very much.